Alright guys, this is the next project here, the Onan CCKA that came out of my 450, and it has something wrong internally, which I believe is a blown connecting rod. So I'm going to dissect this engine here and scope out what's going on. I'm going to take the manifold off, I'm going to take off the heads, I'm going to take the input gear off. I'm basically going to strip this whole engine down to the block, oil pan, the whole deal, because no matter what the outcome of this is, I need to get it honed out, probably new pistons, new rods, crankshaft turn, the whole deal. So might as well just take this whole thing apart. The intake manifold has broken bolts here where the muffler was, so the stud's coming out, so maybe when that intake manifold comes off, we might be able to get those out. But this is going to be my little project here, and we'll see if we can get it apart and see what's cooking in there. But that's kind of the deal. So the heads here I had off before, and they really came off easy. It was no big deal. And we'll see if we can just take them off again. But really, I got to get the oil pan off. That's really where I need to be with this project. And then I can flip this thing over. Just figured I'd take all these accessories off so that we can see what's going on in there. Take a lot of the weight off the engine. This stupid thing weighs a ton. I broke my back lifting it up onto this table here. And I don't want to do that, so we'll take the timing cover off, the stator, starter, we'll take everything off that we can think of that can get us some more room to play with in there. This is the cylinder over here that's broken actually, and you know, I'll take this oil filter off. Again, I had these heads off once, so it was not really a big deal, but I did it outside in the dark with a flashlight just to see what was going on in my kind of initial assessment of this motor. And I'm hoping that this has rods that have the replaceable bearings. That would be nice. And that way we can probably get a new bearing for our rod to make it 10 under or whatever it's got to be. So we got pistons look really nice inside. I mean the bores, they're not scored, there's nothing wrong with them, so pretty happy so far. But let's see, we'll take that stator off. I don't know if this stator works or not, it's pretty shot looking. My other CCKA, the stator is no good, so I kind of just assume that this one's no good also. The wires are all shot looking. They're all corroded off, the connectors here and everything. So you don't really need to take the stator off, so take the timing cover off, huh? Just got to take the timing cover itself off. And heck with the stator. So we'll keep plugging along. Let's see. This thing sure is dirty, I'll tell you that much. Take this linkage off the carburetor here. Out of the way. This fuel line has to come off over here. It's on the fuel pump. I'll take that off. They really make these things good, you know. They don't put steel fuel lines on Kohlers. Well, maybe in 1968 when this was made they did. But this is looking pretty good. We'll get that off. Now let's see, we should be able to take this manifold right off now. We got a couple wires stuck on this here, so let's take this wire off the coil. Let's see, take that off. Let's see, we'll get that out of the way. I'll take this spring off the governor here. Now we should be able to take this whole intake manifold right off. Oh, we got a wire that goes to the points over here still, so let's see if we can't disconnect that from the points box. Alright, we got that off. Let's see what else we got up here. A bunch of junk. Holy crap, this thing's dirty. Now I've got most of this engine torn down and I'm ready to take the oil pan off, and there's basically 4 bolts down here that hold the pan on, and I'm sure I'm going to make a hell of a mess when I drop this pan, so we'll see what happens. But this thing must have had an oil leak for a long time, because there is so much gunk and grime on all these parts that I couldn't even find half the bolts. Kind of funny, but I can't wait to see what's in here, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully the crank isn't too screwed up. That's my main concern, is what's the shape of the crank. And let's see, this should be my last pan bolt, and we'll see if we can get this pan. Oh, there we go. Oh, pan came right off. Oh, broken. Oh, so, oh god, that's not cool. So here's the deal. The rod, I guess the rod does have the replaceable bearings. What it looks like happened is the cap fell right off the rod. Here's one of the bolts from the rod, broken in half, and the actual cap to the rod is stuck down here in the crankcase. Let me get the camera down here and we'll take a closer look. Alright guys, here's a closer look at what's going on. So again, in the oil pan we got the actual bolts that go on the connecting rod cap. This one appears to be sheared off, and in here we've got the rod sitting here with no cap on it, and the cap is down here underneath. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to get this out, to be honest with you, but it's kind of a problem. The crank itself doesn't look damaged, but it looks like the rod is punched into the block of hair over there. So somehow I got to get this crap out of here. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that, but that's what my problem is here. So that rod cap is wedged in there between the crank and the side of the block, I may have to, I mean, this rod is shot anyway, so I may have to take a cutoff wheel in there and a moto tool and just try to cut that rod right off. But I'm actually going to get a hammer and try to hammer it up this way and get it unstuck. And we'll see if we can get it out. And that's not cool, but I figured the rod would have broken half right in the middle of it. But again, it looks like there's a failure here with the rod cap where this bolt snapped off and the whole, and this side here came out. So I'm wondering if a thread stripped in there or if someone had rebuilt this at some point in time and they didn't torque it properly. But this bolt here definitely just came completely unscrewed. I wonder if the threads are good. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but that's what happened. So let me see if I can get that crap out of there, and we'll see what we got going on. Alright guys, after a little muscling around, I was able to get this, the old rod cap out, and that thing is destroyed, first of all. Good news is that there's standard pistons on both sides, and the piston actually seems to be in really good shape still. There's a little burr on the bottom here, which may or may not matter. I think you could file that off and it would be okay. But the rod is trashed. Now it's bent up pretty good here. Onan 170-2422028. And it really is trash. It's kind of funny, but the crank seems to be in okay shape, which is nice. This is the piston out of the other side, which does have the replaceable bearing insert, which is real nice. I wasn't expecting to see that. And this is the cap off the other side. The bearing looks real nice. There's no scoring or anything. I think what I'm going to try to do with this motor is, I'm going to take out the crankshaft. I got to get this timing cover off. It was giving me a hard time, so I'll see if I can get that off. I got to take the gear off the other side of the crank, and then I'm going to investigate this thing real good. But the piston or the cylinder didn't seem to be that bad. It's hard to tell in this light, but see if I turn on the light. Here's the inside of the cylinder here, and I'm just going to take this rag here and wipe it a hair and see what we got going on in there. Man, the cylinder is actually real nice. There's no scoring, there's like no issues whatsoever. So I think I'm going to measure the cylinder with my dial bore indicator and see how close to spec it is. And I'm going to search for a used piston and rod if it's in spec. And again, I'm going to take out this crank. I'm going to mic these journals and see where we're at with those. But I think we might be lucky here and be able to put this thing back together with no major efforts. So stay tuned, and we'll see what the scoop is.